The first trailer for Marvel's Midnight Suns, the new tactical RPG from Firaxis, the studio who brought us XCOM Enemy Unknown, just dropped. And based off of the game's title and the trailer, Marvel's Midnight Suns is set in the darker side of the Marvel Universe, looking to put you face to face against demonic forces of the underworld as you team up and live among the Midnight Suns, Earth's last line of defense. Presented by Marvel's Midnight Suns. Joining me today is creative director at Firaxis, Jake Solomon, who will hopefully get me up to speed on when and where in the vast Marvel universe this takes place, what's at stake, and most importantly, who is involved. Jake, set the stage for us. What is happening in this game? Does Midnight Suns exist in the same universe as any other part of Marvel? Just give me the whole spiel. What's going on?
The Marvel universe is amazing, obviously. It's been a dream to work there, but the challenge is, as you can imagine, and as you kind of alluded to, finding your own corner of that universe. And so for us, we drifted to the darker side of Marvel, the supernatural side of Marvel. So the stakes in this game are all about the supernatural, and this features one of my favorite comic book runs, which comes from the very early 90s, The Rise of the Midnight Suns, which is set in that sort of very dark supernatural part of the Marvel universe. So that's kind of exciting for us, is that we're going to be telling a story that people haven't heard for a very long time with characters that are probably new to a lot of players.
So you've got the better part of a century worth of Marvel lore to pull from. What titles and runs did you look to most for inspiration?
Obviously, we feature both like really, really popular characters that a lot of players are going to know. So you've got your characters like Iron Man and Captain America and Captain Marvel and Wolverine. But we also really wanted to feature characters that, for us, we wanted to introduce players to them. And so, one of the very first comic book events that I ever read was called Inferno. This was the late 80s. Again, another like classic supernatural story in the Marvel Universe. And that featured this character named Magik. And she's this awesome, powerful new mutant who grew up in this hell dimension called Limbo. And so that features very heavily. Also, I think that the Runaways is one of the best books in Marvel history. So we have Nico from the Runaways as well. And so that's, again, another character that some players may not know. And that's what we're excited about. As well as Robbie, Reyes, Ghost Rider. And I can't believe I'm saying this. Do people not know who Blade is? Is that possible? I mean, am I that old? But I don't know. Is Blade like a deep cut at this point?
Everybody knows Blade. He's the guy who said the thing about ice skating uphill. He's
right.
A classic.
Yes, that's right, which I won't repeat here.
No, this is a family place. Now, speaking of which, can you tell us a little bit about what it's been like working with Marvel games and sort of how, Firaxis and Marvel got together and what that relationship has been like?
Working with Marvel is a dream, but it's just not something I'd ever considered. And what happened was that Marvel actually reached out to us because a number of their games team were fans of XCOM. The very first call I had with the Marvel games team, one of their executive vice presidents of Marvel was on the call, and he had very specific feedback for me about the finale of the XCOM mission, and then a bunch of other people chimed in, and they had all this their different experiences they wanted to share. And so that was really exciting for me because that meant they knew what kind of games that we make. And so we thought if we can combine our gameplay experience with the narrative of all these characters and their stories that millions of people around the world love, then it's a match made in heaven.
Midnight Suns has the first customizable original character in the form of Hunter. Can you tell us a little bit about who we are playing as and how they fit into the Marvel Universe?
It was key for us to tell a new story. We wanted to go to a place that we think a lot of players haven't seen before in the Marvel Universe. And a big part of that for us was not telling a story about any particular character. You're not Iron Man in this game, you're not Blade, you can control those characters. But instead, we wanted you to put yourself into the game, and we did that by creating the Hunter, which is an all-new superhero that we designed with Marvel, which is completely customizable in terms of how they look, in terms of how they play, which lets the player feel like they're in the story and lets them feel like they're experiencing this kind of firsthand. And so they are the child of this ultimate evil named Lilith, the mother of demons. They're an old character, but for a lot of players, it's going to be new. And so we have this relationship between this ultimate evil and the Hunter, which is this new hero we've created, which kind of lets the player feel like they're in the story themselves.
Was there a specific character in Midnight Suns who you can talk about right now, aside from Blade, who you're most excited to sort of flesh out in your own space?
The thing that we're excited about is there's two fantasies, I think, if you're a fan of Marvel. You love to fight alongside the heroes, and a lot of games have done that really well. But from the very beginning, we were more excited about this fantasy of, well, what's it like to live alongside the heroes? When you read the comics, when you watch the movies, I think that that's as exciting to see how they interact with each other, how you could interact with them, choosing who you want to build relationships with. We have this really large cast of characters, 12 heroes in addition to the hunter. So the player has to make choices about, okay, which hero do I build a relationship with? And of course you get all kinds of gameplay benefits and cosmetic benefits, but it's really very narrative where you say, okay, I'm going to be best friends with these characters. And so for me, I really like Magik. I think that the way that we're doing some characters like Doctor Strange is very exciting, you know, and so it'll be up to different players, like what characters you love that you know, and then you get drawn into these new characters that we're introducing, like Robbie, Reyes, the new Ghost Rider, Nico, Magik, that I think it's just fun. Every time you play, you know, you kind of find yourself drawn to different characters for different reasons.
Awesome. So whether you're a fan of the comics or the fan of the movies, this is a new, you know, untested territory entirely, and there's some surprises waiting in store. Now, you mentioned Runaways, you mentioned Inferno. Are there any other Marvel comics that fans should maybe read to get up to speed with Midnight Suns?
Well, there is the original run. I mean, it is, when you get in there, it's dark and it is heavy and it is all 90s. The original run, you know, 1991, which Max, you were a child for. I'm not even sure you were born then. There was lots of flowing hair, you know, there were lots of motorcycles. So I would recommend, if you really want to learn about this, then read that original Spirits of Vengeance run in Ghost Rider and The Rise of the Midnight Suns. See, I've even got it here. I have mine are like boarded and packed, but yes, we have the classic Spirits of Vengeance Ghost Rider run from 1991. So if you're really deep, you can go into that one. But I'm just saying, you know, beware. There's some dark, weird stuff in there.
Awesome. That's music to my ears. Jake, thank you so much for joining me. Marvel's Midnight Suns is scheduled to release in March 2022 across PC, PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch. Till then, make mine Marvel, and for all things Marvel, be it games, comics, movies, and so on, you are already in the right place. IGN. Enough said.